Have you ever wondered why, despite everyone's best efforts to put an end to them, certain stories simply refuse to go away? I thought this couldn't be true, but this story regarding Meghan Markle and Archie's birth is becoming much more than tabloid rumors. I am certain that a lady has come out and stated that she was paid to have the baby. Which is why I didn't believe it was artificial intelligence. Archie and then disappear. Not your typical rumor about a star. That is the type of situation that reverses the norm. She claims that total confidentiality and protection money were guaranteed to her. She did her part and remained silent for years. But now that she's speaking, people start to listen when she says things like attorney's agreements and broken pledges. She's not someone who wants to get notoriety. Publishing a memoir or appearing on reality programs. She is speaking because she feels taken advantage of, which totally alters the atmosphere. Here comes the crazy bit. Harry and Meghan have not exchanged any words, not an Instagram post, not a news release, and not even a remark, and that's strange in Meghan's case. Strange as hell because she constantly responds to litigation and carefully worded interviews when the media crosses the line or says anything she doesn't like. Assertions, she is good at that game. So when she stops talking about a significant claim, people start to wonder why, as quiet in this situation sounds a lot like dread. And let's face it, the cover-up is more important here than whether or not a surrogate was utilized. Regarding surrogacy, the majority of people nowadays are rather understanding. Celebrities frequently engage in it. Occasionally for medical reasons, occasionally for personal ones, but concealing them by paying someone to vanish goes too far into dubious terrain. If a surrogate was employed, that would make sense, but rather than lying to the world, why not? Declare that we want a kid, that we're having a baby, and that we're employing a surrogate. He's 2 weeks older, so I thought maybe it would give time to wean the baby away from a biological mother. That goes beyond privacy. It has to do with image. Additionally, Meghan's reputation has been developed like a brand, well-groomed meticulously, chosen and constantly prepared for the camera. Which is precisely why this woman's assertion is so powerful, since it confirms a long-standing rumor that Meghan is fixated with how other people see her. Every action she does, including the way she holds herself in pictures and the remarks she says, shouts Hollywood is in charge. She continued to perform after becoming a member of the royal family, just moving from soundstage to the palace settings. When this surrogate narrative was told, several individuals just nodded and stated, "Yeah, that actually tracks," without blinking. The unusual perspectives of the belly, the lack of a typical hospital photo, and the mystery surrounding her pregnancy. These items were dismissed. There seems to be a total refusal to make sacrifices for the family, especially in public or anything else, now that they've been thrust back into the limelight after their peculiarities or bigotry spurred nitpicking in the past. Therefore, I believe that you don't have to make compromises when you feel like the main character. Everyone ought to understand your significance, pay attention to you, and value what you have to say. They are what everyone looks at. So all of a sudden, they stop seeming so innocent and start to resemble hints. Additionally, there is the issue of time. Meghan announced her pregnancy in methods that were less intimate and more akin to brand revelations. Regulated lighting, well-groomed captions, and professional picture sessions. Additionally, there was no traditional royal pomp following Archie's birth, no hospital-leaving photo, no infant in arms, just an enigmatic picture of two parents who appeared strangely fresh and a swaddled infant. That is the type of information that people remember. And it all makes sense when someone comes forward years later and claims that she was the one responsible for everything, carrying the baby and then receiving payment to be silent. At this point, Meghan and Harry must make a choice. Keep quiet and let the tale to continue spreading like a wildfire, or at last entering the mess and attempting to tidy it up. However, they made a grave mistake if they believed that ignoring it would cause it to vanish. Due to the fact that this is only the beginning, this woman is not just an anonymous rumor on a gossip website claiming to be Archie's surrogate. According to reports, she has revealed enough behind-the-scenes details to cause even doubters to take notice. We're discussing dates, meetings, legal documents, and promises of pay. What makes this so risky for Meghan is that she isn't fumbling for attention. Rather, she sounds like someone who is actively involved and is now finished remaining mute. The specifics are more important than the charge alone, because when someone begins mentioning individuals who were there at secret meetings or outlining the topics that were discussed with attorneys, it becomes difficult to rule them out as having delusions. She claims she was discarded like a liability, despite being assured that this would be discreet, clean, and that she would be taken care of for the rest of her life. Meghan, meanwhile, keeps acting as though it doesn't exist. Nothing from the lawyer, no denials. But when a lady is out there implying that she may provide evidence, a text message, recording, etc., people begin to assume that there is fire beneath the smoke in talks. Additionally, Meghan's quiet doesn't make sense given her history of directly engaging the media. Let's discuss the narrative Meghan has created about herself. She has always focused on maintaining control over her story, brand, and image. Every public move she made from her early days in Hollywood until her departure from the royal family was well planned. Because of this plot has a lot of potential to fall apart. More than one chapter, Meghan wasn't only concealing a surrogate. If this woman is telling the truth, she was deliberately creating a reality that the general people was never supposed to challenge. Now, critics are bringing up the past and posing challenging queries. Why did her baby bulge seem to alter shape? Why were there videos of her stooping oddly or manipulating the bump as if it were a prop that went viral? For a royal birth, there isn't a typical hospital reveal photo. It was an extraordinary lack of openness. And the increasingly popular argument today holds that perception, not privacy, was the issue. Meghan has dedicated her professional life to a field where appearances are paramount. Pregnancy may be a branding nightmare in Hollywood. Stretch markings, enlarged features, postpartum weight is viewed as a professional setback. Meghan is more aware of this than most people. She spent years living in that world. Therefore, it doesn't seem random when people learn that a surrogate was supposedly utilized and then hushed. It seems planned, a method for preserving the ideal mother image without giving up any camera-ready angles when seen through that prism. Everything makes more sense, including the poised postpartum looks and the manicured baby belly photographs. Naturally, although, none of this has been shown in a court of law. It is another matter entirely in the arena of popular opinion. Additionally, it appears like Meghan's team is forgetting that quiet is rarely the best course of action. People are currently making connections more quickly than public relations teams can keep up. Then there is Prince Harry, whose involvement in all of this is becoming increasingly ambiguous. In the past, he was viewed as the rebellious royal, who made the decision, the protecting spouse, and the devoted father. Love surpasses tradition. However, they are now questioning if he was aware of the surrogate from the beginning, or if he was simply being forced, along without knowing or wanting to protest if he was part of the scheme. However, if he wasn't, and Meghan handled everything without his full awareness, it calls into question if Harry, who has already lost so much, still holding on to confidence in the marriage, quiet out of concern about more losses. Meghan Markle is the subject of a storm, but it's about credibility now, not simply rumors or even the surrogate claim itself. There is a void created each time Meghan decides not to answer. And that void is filled with uncertainty, conjecture, and suspicion. People are now distrustful rather than merely inquisitive, especially when your entire public image has been based on empowering openness and correcting the record that suspicions are more deeply ingrained. There is more to this woman's accusations than just one. They have rekindled all of the public's doubts about Meghan. Every aspect of her meticulously crafted image is now magnified by the staged interviews, media partnerships, and brand marketing. Furthermore, what individuals are witnessing doesn't appear to be genuine, appears to be a fabrication. A heavily choreographed, expensive production with no margin for error, supporters of Meghan contend that she is only defending her private. Yet secrecy and privacy are not the same thing. Choosing what to disclose is privacy. Being secret is a way to hide something. And if it had been disclosed honestly, most people could have supported the use of a surrogate. But paying someone pretending she didn't exist and making her vanish isn't safeguarding a family. That is manipulating perception. The fact that Meghan is more than merely a well-known person makes everything more complicated. She was a member of the monarchy. Royals are supposed to be traditional, responsible, and above all, honest. Everything regarding a kid born into that line has legal, constitutional, and symbolic significance. If the surrogacy accusation is true, it may cast doubt on Archie's standing in the royal hierarchy as well as Meghan and Harry's behavior. That's what really frightens the establishment. Because the legality of succession, the laws of lineage, and the monarchy are all called into question if there is even the slightest indication that the birth was a fabrication. The concept of royal ancestry itself, it's more than simply a PR problem. There is still no denial, no lawsuit, no statement. Just quiet from two individuals who typically know how to get a microphone when they want to. That is a constitutional catastrophe waiting to happen. People keep asking, what are they afraid of? While it continues. The purported surrogate has not revealed her identity. However, although she hasn't been on TV, there is a real risk that she would if she loses receipts. Call logs, messages, legal docs, the game is done. The public opinion court will make a quick decision. Harry and Meghan won't be the targets of press interference. They will be perceived as masterminds of deceit. And Meghan isn't the only one at risk. Emotional honesty has always been the foundation of Harry's reputation. From discussing his vulnerability has always been there. From his sadness over Diana to his decision to leave the royal family in order to protect his family. That susceptibility, however, begins to resemble manipulation if he has participated in a cover-up or worse, permitted it out of blind loyalty. Archie, a boy born into unfathomable attention, is at the heart of all of this. His parents' handling of this tempest is not his fault, but describe how he is perceived by others for years. Archie becomes more than just a youngster if this narrative turns into legal disputes and exposes him. He becomes a symbol of debate. In California, Meghan and Harry have established a life founded on honesty, freedom, and sincerity. However, the reality doesn't fit into your timetable. It is impossible to both preach and avoid it at the same time. They must show if they have nothing to conceal. It because quiet won't rescue you in the end. Them.